Hey, welcome back to Five Lakes Garage, and today we're going to do something to try to prepare for a trip coming up. Now, one thing I was about to do today is actually get ready to fix the Wagoneer, and I'm almost there. I have my transmission sitting there, I got my rebuild kit, but I'm not going to do that today because I'm getting ready to take the family onto a family trip, and we're going to go down to the beach. Now, if I'm going to go down to the beach, because I used to live down there, we're going to drive on the beach. Maybe go down to Oregon Inlet, see how it is. And I'm going to take my 9 inches of ground clearance, which is going to be shorter than that once I deflate the tires a little bit, and hopefully not get stuck. Now, once you get off the beach and you have your tires deflated, the one thing you need to do before you get on the highway is actually inflate them. So there are a couple places out there that you can get free air, you can pay for it or whatever, but you still have to get to wherever the air is. So the next best thing is to actually have it on your vehicle. So what we're going to do is install a kit that I got off of Amazon. Why did I get it from Amazon? It's because I have gift cards for my birthday, and that's the reason why I came there. So anyway, I have the system here. It's actually a pretty nice system here. You have your air tank. This is 2.5 gallons of air that you can store. And it has a gauge you stick into the cab of the truck. You have a pressure regulator to keep that from blowing up on you. They do have some emergency relief valves that are in here in the kit. You also have all the connectors. You have all of the grommets. If you have to go through the firewall, which you're going to have to, they have grommets that you can actually put into your firewall to keep it safe. Also comes with a remote air filter, some hose to where you're actually going to put this air filter. Isolators, you have grounds, you have a fuse. Now this is a 30 amp fuse. The relay that comes with the kit is a 40 amp. Now in order to do a 40 amp, you want to have at least an 8 gauge wire. Alright, so got all the connectors to wire it up. You also have extra line that you're going to put up on the frame rail and then be able to have your connector wherever you want to put it. A lot of people put it right next to the license plate. Some people put it underneath your front bumper. I'm going to show you exactly where we're going to put ours here in a minute. Also comes with, whoa, that's got some beef. Comes with a air pump. It should be able to inflate up to the 37-inch tires without any issues. Now it does have a 1.8 CFM capacity on this, so you can run air tools. It's not going to run a lot of them, but you can get a tire off with this thing and shouldn't have any problem with it. It also comes with a curled up hose. Now I don't really like these. I've actually had these in the past, and once they start getting dry rot, they can just blow up. Now this one right here is rated at 200 psi. I don't trust it, so we're going to use this for right now, but we're also going to grab another hose that is a much higher rating, so we can actually get all the way around the truck. So anyway, so the kit also comes with all the electrical connectors that you're going to need. Now as far as mounting this thing, I was hoping that I can put it on the frame rail. Now the only problem with putting this on the frame rail is that the frame rail is not big enough. The tank hangs a little bit too low, and that would be one of the lowest points on the truck. So what we're going to do for this particular trip is temporarily mount it here in the bed. It's a decent sized bed. It is a long bed for the Tacoma, and so I'm just going to stick it over to the side. And now I'm just going to put it on this piece of plywood because I will be taking it out a little bit later, because eventually the final home will actually be the Grand Wagoneer. That one has plenty of frame rail space that you can just tuck it underneath. We'll put a skid plate underneath it so you do not come off of a rock, puncture this, and make it a bomb. So we don't want to do that. So anyway, so we're going to get into unpackaging everything and showing exactly how we want to mount it and actually wire it. So give me a few seconds. I'll settle that up, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so I think I figured out exactly what we're going to do for this entire setup, and I'm thinking everything's going to be on this board. I started thinking about it. If I just run a fuse link with 8 gauge wire in the Wagoneer, in the CJ, or whatever, I can just move this entire setup to whatever I'm working on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mount the gauge and also on and off switch. I'm going to go ahead and put it back here. I don't really want to dirty up the inside of the Taco. And the only thing I really did, this thing was actually designed to actually mount upside down. So I loosened up the back of the nuts on the gauge itself. So I spun it around. I pulled the switch out, spun that around. So now it will load like that. So we're going to mount this directly to the plywood. The tank itself came with these little tiny grommets. And get a close up on that. All right. They also have these little copper or brass little barrels, and all that's going to do is have a sleeve. So this guy right here is actually going to go into the holes on the bottom of the tank so we can isolate it, because this thing will be vibrating quite a bit. So it comes with hardware to put it all in there, which is going to be awesome because I'm going to drill some holes through this board and plant that. Now, one thing I do have to say, I don't complain about too much stuff. Okay, maybe I do. But these plastic hoses, which might be good, but on a cold day, not so good. I feel like I'm going to break this darn thing. But I'm trying to warm it up. I might get the heat gun out to warm it up a little bit so as I'm straightening it out, I don't break it. It's kind of a chilly day today, and we don't want to break this thing. Now this right here, this one's the shorter of the two hard lines here. And this right here is going to be for the filter. Now the filter, which is this guy right here, in which my camera assistant and I will work really hard to try to figure out how to open this thing up. And they do have little tabs on each side, so you got to get your fingernail in there and actually pry it up and actually take the cover off. Now this is the actual filter that will filter out the air. It does come with 2 additional filters. You can throw these in the glove box. But this guy right here needs to be in a location that is free from moisture, dirt, whatever you have. So you can run this inside the cab, or you can run it just maybe up in the fender well or something like that, so it will be out of the way and away from moisture. But seeing that we're going to be putting this back here in the bed, and I do have a tonneau cover, I'm just going to screw this directly into the front of the pump, so that it will just filter right in. All right, so I got my filter in front of the pump. That should be adequate for what we're actually going to use this thing for. It's temporary. Now, on the tank itself, it does have multiple. It has 2 here, 2 in the back, and you got 1 here on top. And you also have 1 on the bottom. Now, like I said before, we're going to put the drain on the bottom because this will create moisture and it will fill up. And if you do not drain it every time, you might actually get some rust inside, and then you have a potential bomb on your hands. They do blow up. It's the same thing with the big compressors. You always got to keep them clean. This guy right here is an emergency relief valve, so that has to be up there. This is regulated right at 150 psi. So if it gets above that, this is going to go off and it'll relieve the pressure of the tank. I put this one on the top, which is the pressure regulator. This will control when the pump comes on, when the pump goes off, and how much pressure is actually in the tank. Looking at all the instructions, they usually have them down here at the bottom. I'm going to put it on top because this thing's taking up a lot more room than I thought it was going to. The kit comes with these little compression fittings. Now what this is going to do, you unscrew it, comes in 2 different pieces. And if you look right there on the front, you would see that little lip. So what we want to do here is put your little nut on first. There you go. Because that's actually going to lock it in. Then you're going to take your fitting with the lip on it and actually push it in. All right, so I got my heat gun here, and I'm going to put it, I'm not going to go really high on it, just kind of in the middle. I'm just going to heat up the hose just a little bit, only because it is entirely too cold and very stiff. All right, shouldn't need much. See if I can get a close up here. So you want to get that the hose over the lip and just twist it on. All right, so once it's all the way up to the front, you can put your compression nut on. And once you tighten that down, you're not going to be able to pull it off. It's not going to come off. It's not going to leak. There you go. So we're just going to put this on one side of the tank. We're going to go over, cut it off for our gauge. All right, so we're going to plug this into the back of the tank, and then we're going to run it along the board and connect to the back of our gauge. Now it's going to work the same way on both sides. Now I hooked this up without it being plugged into the tank first, only to let you see it. but just know that this entire reel has to turn with it when you screw this in, because obviously it's threads. Now, one thing I did not mention earlier, but it does have a gasket sealer on all of the connectors. Now that should be okay to actually screw things in. Some of them, like this guy here, does not have it. And what I'm going to use is some Teflon tape. You can get this in the plumbing supply house, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. You can just get some tape, and that works great. They also have some goop. They have, was it plumber's caulking, plumber's goop, all that good stuff. All works pretty much the same. So we're going to plug this in, screw it in. There we go. Now don't forget to put wrenches on that just to make sure that they are nice and tight. But right now I'm just going to route this, hopefully. All right, so I got to cut my cable here. Now one thing that you really want to do is make sure that it is completely, it's not curved or anything like that. It's perfectly squared. So I'm going to take my measurement roughly, and what I'm going to use is an actual pipe cutter. This one right here should do the job. So if you cut any kind of plumbing pipe or anything like that, you'll know exactly how to use this. You also use this for brake lines, fuel lines, and that type of stuff. So you're just going to tighten it up slightly, spin it around, tighten it some more, spin it. And what are you going to do next? Tighten it some more and spin it. That's right. All right, so we have a nice little straight cut on that. Now, I'll take my heat gun again. You know, something else you can do as well is right when you start this installation process, go put your cable outside. Put it in the sun, let it warm up. All right, so once again, you're gonna take your nut, make sure it is going the right direction, and put that over the hose. Then you're gonna take that and stick it on your gauge. All right, once that is in there, you take your nut, bring it all the way up, and then cinch it down. We can drill some holes and actually mount that right there. Now it looks like the only thing we have left to do is actually run the connector all the way up to the battery, and then we need to find a ground to use. So the ground, you might want to think maybe hook it up to the bed. Probably not a good ground, only because Toyota makes their bed out of composite material. Some of it's metal, some of it is plastic or composite. So what I was going to do is actually run it down and connect it directly to the frame rail. Frame rail should be able to give me a good enough ground. All right, so when you come back, I'll show you exactly how it works. All right, well, it's almost completely mounted. I do have everything connected. It is bolted in with all the fasteners. Now, in order to mount the tank, I actually just took a piece of paper bag and actually made a template. So I poked holes in all four of the anchors, transfer that down to the wood, marked my holes, and then drilled it, and it worked out pretty well. So everything is up there. I do have my gauge. Now the gauge does come with wires for the ACC, so it does come with a light, and actually you can pull that out. So it does come with a little light that you can have inside your dash. You hook this up to your ACC connection, or your lights rather, underneath your dash, and then you ground it, obviously. And then when you turn your lights on, your gauge pops up. Now I'm not going to hook that up right now, only because it's in the back and I don't really care. If I am blowing up tires, I should be back here anyway, and I have a light from the back of the bed, so we should be in good shape. But if you would like to have that hooked up, by all means, hook it up. You're totally fine. So as far as all of the grounds go, what I was going to do is actually, I might leave this guy up here, and I'm going to sink a bolt going through the wood, and then I'm going to use that as my ground. So I'll have my new ground, which I'm going to use some of the wire over there to actually go down to my chassis, and then everything here, the regulator, the pump, everything will actually go to the same constant ground. Now the power connection Sorry, I kind of lost my camera crew momentarily. Hopefully they'll be back. Anyway, so you got your red wire that's actually going to connect up to your white wire of your regulator. That gets plugged in. These are already pre-terminated, which is fantastic, especially if you can keep your pump in relatively close proximity to your tank. Now, the red connection here is actually going to go to your positive source, which would be all this lovely cable that they sent. This is going to go all the way to the front. Getting ready to run that here real quick. Now, so we have another small red wire that's actually going to be connected down here to your switch. All right. All right, so we're getting ready to start the wiring. Now, you have an 8 gauge going into the pump, and you should have at least an 8 gauge going down to your ground. Kind of want to have them the same. So what we're going to do, and I love these things here. These are just a wire stripper. So basically you're going to take your wire, clip it, boom, there you go. Good to go on getting exactly the right amount of wire that you need. Next thing you want to do is actually clip off some heat shrink. So you put your wire and you put it right on the other side of the where you want to crimp. Then you're going to take your crimpers, and then you have different ways of crimping right here. You have your square, and then you have pointed and stuff like that. If you look in the very close, hopefully it'll focus, right there they have the seam. Basically it's where the two things kind of come together. And what you want to do is actually crimp that in using this side here to actually curl it in. So to really grab a hold of the wire. There you go. So nice and crimped. So now we're going to use our heat shrink. So we're going to put our heat shrink up here. Now you don't want to get it too close to the actual area because that's where you're going to be grounding from. Now there's two ways of using heat shrink. One, you can use a torch. Now this is not highly recommended. I do use it quite a bit only because it is very quick. A heat gun will actually work better, but I don't have that kind of time right now. So real quick, easy, heat shrunk. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my wire here and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to feed this down to the bottom and find me a good chassis ground. All right, the whole system is in. It is actually wired, it is plumbed, it is ready to go. And this is how it turned out. Okay, so we have the power wire that comes off. Comes with, this actually came with the kit. I can get rid of my trash. There's also, very important, make sure you do have a fuse in the circuit. This is a 30 amp fuse. You want to keep that as close to the battery as possible in case it gets chafed, it gets grounded or anything like that. It will protect your truck. You do not want to burn your truck down. So anyway, so you tie wrapped it all the way up, it goes down, and it's tie wrapped all the way throughout the brake lines, hugging the frame rail, which it actually goes all the way to the back. All right, so now we're at the back of the truck, and this is how everything got set up. Check it out. All right, so you have our tank. Like we said before, you have your drain on the bottom, you have your emergency valve, you also have your quick connect. Now, most of the time what you'll have here would be the actual hose that will actually go underneath your truck and actually mount somewhere on the frame or on your bumper or wherever exactly you want to put it. So I do have my gauge. It does go all the way up to 150. You have your pump. Now for the wiring itself, what you have here is you got 3 wires coming out, or 4 wires coming out of the actual regulator. The big thick red one, if you want to read that, you know, this is your power source. It comes directly from the battery. It also has a white one, which goes out to your compressor. And then the red one, the small red one, actually goes to your switch. And of course your black goes to ground. Now what I did was actually use a bolt that I have coming straight through the bottom of the board. I have it going down to the frame through a couple of grounds, and then all my other grounds get connected to this bolt. Now the switch right here is on and off, and it is a positive switch, so you need to have power going to it. So what I did was made this cable up right here, which excuse me, it will break out a small 14 gauge wire that's going to actually go to the switch. So I did ground it at first, and I figured, I was kind of hoping it would be a ground on switch, but it's a positive ground, positive on switch. Does that make sense? So usually this connector right here, this guy right here, is usually underneath the dash, in which you can grab power from just about anything. Fuse panel should be right there. So since I put it way back here in the back, I needed to run a separate power lead. I didn't want to run another wire all the way from the front to the back, so that's why I tapped into the power to the actual pump itself. Now, once I put it into the Wagoneer, it'll be a little bit more of a permanent fixture, so I'll put that underneath the dash and we should be good to go there. And I'll be able to grab a power source from there. So let's see if it works. Let's flip the switch. All right, now the tank is fully filled. It's about 2.5 gallons. It's not going to last forever, but you will be able to pump up your tires, according to the box, up to a 37-inch tire without a single bit of problem. Now, I only run 33s, and really that it's on the Taco right now, they're on stockers. So this shouldn't be that big of a deal to actually get these things pumped back up after going out to the beach. So, yeah, it's not a bad system. I think the pump can be a little bit bigger to be able to fill this tank up a little bit quicker. But other than that, I think it's in great shape. So I think I'm going to close this video out by actually showing you what you can do with this tank. And later on, I will have another video of how I permanently install it on the Wagoneer. But right now, it's on the Taco. That's right. So anyway, like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and we'll do some more videos. And I'll let you know after I get back from the beach on how well it did. But the best thing I love about this is that you can use air tools. And I'm going to do that right now. See, it's that easy. Works like a champ. I'm going to pack things up. I'll see you guys next time.